Are you looking for the best gaming keyboards in your budget? Well, in today's video we break down the top 5 best gaming keyboards. I made this list based on their price, quality, durability and more. To find out more information about this product, you can check out the description below and also make sure you subscribe for more reviews. Okay, so let's get started with the video. Starting at number 5, we have the SteelSeries Apex Pro. A problem I've always had with gaming keyboards is that sometimes they can get so carried away by their ambition for adding new features that they can make the keyboard too large. It gives most of them a bad score for design because then the keyboard ends up looking like a large and unwieldy plastic slab with even uglier plastic slabs jutting out of its sides. That is not a problem I have with the SteelSeries Apex Pro because it has deftly avoided that trap. This keyboard comes with a magnificent aluminum frame that is just big enough to house it. There are no excesses here. There also isn't any excess space on the side of the keyboard. Where the keys end also happens to be where the keyboard ends, and that's saying a lot. When it comes to minimalist design in a field that isn't traditionally predisposed to minimalist designs, it's hard to beat the SteelSeries Apex Pro. Actually, come to think about it, the only thing that makes this keyboard larger than a normal office keyboard is the wrist rest. Fortunately, the wrist rest is magnetic, which means you don't need to have it around all the time. However, I wouldn't recommend removing it. It comes in a faux rubber material that is pretty comfortable. I tend to get rid of the wrist rests almost immediately after getting a keyboard, but this one's an exception. It actually does its job of resting the wrists. The keyboard itself has a very clean and modern aesthetic due to how the keycaps float over the deck. The keys themselves, even though they're made of plastic, still feel very premium and solid. There is an OLED display above the number pad as well as a clickable volume wheel that mutes when you press it in. There is also a media key that you can use to play or pause your music. The OLED display is really cool in that it allows you to set a custom image for the keyboard. You can even set a GIF if you want, making this keyboard a lot more customizable than most. Moving on at number 4. We have the Razer Huntsman Elite. One thing's for sure, and that's that the Huntsman Elite is an ambitious keyboard. That said, it's still the smallest keyboard Razer has ever produced. That's mainly because of the frameless design Razer introduced on this keyboard. Their other keyboards have had thick plastic on the frame, but the Huntsman has opted to go the way of simplicity. The keycaps float on top of an anodized aluminum deck that's jet black to the sight. This is much like what I've seen with other frameless keyboards, such as the Logitech G513. What's so different about Razer is that they don't just use light bars like everyone else but have additional track lighting around the keyboard. This keyboard even has an RGB lit palm rest. Talk about upping the ante. If you're conservative about how your gaming keyboard looks, then you might feel like this one is a little over the top. However, you can rest assured there isn't a single keyboard out there with more RGB lighting. Their proprietary chroma tech adds soft yet vibrant lighting to every button and key, as well as a glow effect underneath, thanks to the track lighting around the perimeter. The media keys on this keyboard are also among the best in the market. They have buttons to play, fast forward, and rewind, as well as a wheel that control volume with a mute button right in its center. I particularly like how the volume wheel hangs partly off the edge. This makes adjustments easier than if it was fully in the body of the keyboard. As soon as you start adjusting the volume, its inner ring lights up a bright white that gets brighter as the volume goes higher. My only problem is that I would have preferred if they either got the volume wheel to turn with a smooth scroll or click audibly and physical. Right now, it does something in between and it can feel awkward sometimes. At number 3, we have the Logitech G513. The Logitech G513 is the successor of the Logitech G413, and so there aren't many major design changes over its predecessor. The keyboard is just as compact and the frame is still made of rigid plastic with a top plate of aircraft-grade 5052 aluminum. One of the problems I have with brushed metal finishes on peripherals is that they are a great magnet for fingerprints. It gets annoying after a while because the finish dulls and loses its sheen. Logitech take care of this problem on the G513 by blending aluminum with magnesium, which repels fingerprints. The design is frameless, with floating keycaps that make cleaning up with compressed air a literal and metaphorical breeze. This particular model also introduces RGB lighting that can be customized per key. It's just as good as what Logitech puts into their higher-tier gaming peripherals, with the same brilliance in the lighting. You can also synchronize the lighting effects on your setup with the help of their proprietary LightSync tech. The palm rest is made of leatherette, padded with memory foam. I love how large it is. No matter what size your palms are, they will easily fit on this palm rest. I did think, however, that it was kind of heavy. I understand that this was to keep it in place, but I couldn't help wondering why they didn't just use magnets to achieve that. The Logitech G513 is a little disappointing in that there aren't any dedicated media buttons. Instead, you will have to settle for toggleable function keys. It may help to give the keyboard a smaller form factor, but that's not saying much, since there are many other gaming keyboards that have achieved a frameless design while maintaining shortcut keys. At number 2, we have the Roccat Vulcan 120 Aimo. Starting at the design, this keyboard looks absolutely beautiful. It has something of a conservative design, especially for a gaming keyboard, but that didn't do anything to take away from its beauty. If anything, it enhanced it. It has an aluminum body with the RGB backlighting that I have come to expect on any serious gaming keyboard. What really makes this keyboard stand out, however, is the design of the keycaps. On most keyboards, the keycaps cover the whole key, switch and top. The Vulcan 120 Aimo is different. Here only top of the keys are covered in keycaps, with the rest of the keys exposed. It certainly makes the keyboard feel beautifully industrial. It also gives the keyboard a very nostalgic retro typewriter feel that anyone would appreciate. Even with that retro feel, don't think for a moment that this typewriter looks too old-fashioned. The RGB lighting takes care of that. It's even more eye-catching with the exposed keys as the lighting glows around the keys and through the transparent keycaps, giving it a very futuristic shine. You won't be getting any macro keys on this keyboard, which may be a drawback for some people, but I personally thought it was a good idea since it reduces the clutter on the keyboard. If you want to assign macros, you can assign them to the F1, F2, F3, and F4 keys. There is also a dial knob on the top right-hand corner of the keyboard with 3 buttons next to it. One of those buttons is the FX key, the other one is to mute device volume, and the third is a volume button. If you press the FX key, you can scroll through the different keyboard lighting options by turning the knob. If you press the volume button, you can use the knob to turn up or down the volume. And finally at number 1. We have the Corsair K95 RGB Platinum. The Corsair K95 RGB Platinum shares much of the same design and aluminum build as its predecessor, the K70, though there are some interesting enhancements. The greatest difference between the two is that the K95 has fewer macro keys at just 6, which makes it much narrower than its predecessors. Now, some may not be happy at the reduced number of macro keys, but I thought this was an improvement since it means the keys are easier to reach this time round. Even with the reduced macro key count, this keyboard is still ahead of the curve when it comes to shortcut keys. There are media controls, a volume wheel, gaming modes, and lighting toggles that are all easier to reach. Also, even though the macro keys have been reduced, the keyboard comes with 8 MB of inbuilt memory that allows users to program a maximum of 3 sets of macros. That way you can take the keyboard with you wherever you go and still use whatever keystrokes make you most comfortable. The Corsair Utility Engine, Q, software has always been Corsair's weakest point. Sure, it has seen massive improvements over the years, and this time comes with lots of templates for the pulse, wave, and rain of colors on the keyboard, but it can still get pretty technical pretty fast. I eventually gave up and resorted to using community-built templates for most of my color schemes. The easiest part was creating macros. There, at least, the Q software gave me lots of tools to make life more bearable. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you liked this video. If this video was helpful to you, please make sure a like, comment, and don't forget to subscribe.